Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen. Wal aqibatu lil muttaqeen. Amma ba'd. Inshallah, we'll cover a couple topics today. The fidya of Salat and Saum, and also the Sajdatul Sahf. If a person who was ill, and we discussed this previously, that if a person is so sick that he is not even able to perform his salah with ishara, with indication, just by doing this, or just tilting his head a little bit, or moving his head a little bit. If a person is unable to do even that, then there is no salah upon him at that point. Because a person cannot pray with just the indication of the eyes. He can't just do this for ruku and this for sajda. That doesn't count. At the very least, a person needs to be able to move his head a little bit to indicate for the ruku and the sajda. If a person is not even able to do that, then no salah upon him, fard at the moment. Now here, the masala here is, if an ill person gains the ability to perform qaza of the salah that he missed. For example, a person got sick towards the end, and for the next 2 to 3 months he was so sick that he was not even able to move his head or his body. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants him shifa, or whatever happens, a person is now able to move his head or move his body. And he stays in that state for a bit, and then he passes away. Then upon him is qaza, meaning the person, he gets better, now he can move his body. The first thing he needs to do is start performing the qaza of the prayer that he missed. And if a person passes away in this state, or he knows that this is just a momentary burst of life in me and I'm soon going to pass away, then he needs to leave a will behind. He needs to make this will that from my estate, from my mirath, from whatever I leave behind, my inheritors or the executor of my will, they need to pay the fidya for all of my remaining prayers that I could not perform because of my sickness. Why? Because he got better in the end and he was able to move his body. So the moment he's able to move his body, all of those salahs come back on this person. Same thing is with the missed fasts. A person missed fast because of sickness, and then he got better and he was able to perform the salah, qaza of those missed fasts. Then it is upon him that as soon as possible he do make up for all of the missed fasts that he used to do. Let's give an example. A person, because of severe case of diabetes, he's not able to fast because he had to drink water, whatever. But then a breakthrough happens in medical science and they cure diabetes. And now he no longer has an excuse. And now he has to perform the qaza of every single fast that he missed because of his sickness. And if he cannot do so, then he would have to leave a will behind that from my inheritance, the fidya must be given for every fast that I missed. Same thing is with the witr. And I mentioned this, that there's a disagreement amongst the fuqaha. According to Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, witr is wajib, and it is also wajib to make qaza of it if a person misses it. According to other aimma, like Imam Shafi rahimahullah ta'ala, witr is not wajib, it is emphasized sunnah of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning if a person misses it, then he would no longer have to, he would be sinful for intentionally missing it without any excuse, but he would not have to make qaza for it. Now, the executor of the will or the inheritors, they should take out fidya from a third of a person's mirath, his estate. after taking care of burial expenses and paying off any debts. And this is the case for any will that a person leaves behind, that from this portion of my money, give that person something and that person, that organization something. Whatever will he leave behind, only a third, the people that are executing his will, they would use a third at maximum of his total assets to fulfill the last will or the last wish this person had. The fidya also would be taken out from, at maximum, a third of his total assets. The fidya of salah and siyam, the fidya of salah of every time, that is around 1.6 kilogram of wheat or barley or rice or its value in money or cash. And this of course would be calculated based upon the person's own locality, wherever you are. So for each salah that you missed, you would have to give whatever equivalent is of 1.6 kilogram of wheat or barley. In Arabic, it's called nisf sa', and nisf sa' is calculated to around 1.5 in between 2 kilograms of wheat or barley or rice. Same with every single fast that a person missed. That would be, he would have to give 1.6 to 2 kilogram of wheat, barley, rice to those in need. And if you really go by the value of these items, you'd find it's not a lot. It's very, very cheap. I actually looked it up in Austin, what's the amount, and it was around maybe $1.50, $2 just for the entire thing. Some stores even $0.7, I mean just some cents per missed prayer. It is permissible for the executor to give the fidya for all the salah at once to one poor person. A person has a lot of missed prayers, and that total amount that he has to pay, for example, is in thousands of dollars. It is allowed for that $1,000 to go to one poor person because of the need, and then you can give it to that person. Similarly, with the fidya of fasting, no matter how much the amount is, you can give it all to one person, all at once. There's a difference of opinion regarding the fidya of breaking an oath. That a person, he swore by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this I will do it, and he couldn't do it. The qasam, as we say, the kafara of that, ulama, they have written that you cannot give to all at once to one person. It has to be spread out. If the deceased, if the mayyit did not make a will to give the fidya, but the inheritor gives it as a favor from his side, there is hope that it will be accepted. Something happened, the mayyit couldn't, he forgot, or such was his situation that he didn't have time to write down the will that you have to pay my fidya of all the missed prayers and the fast. The inheritors, the waratha, they can give a favor to the mayyit and pay from their own pocket. Now, one thing here, since he did not leave a will behind, now a third of his mirath could not be, from that the fidya could not be taken because he did not leave a live behind. Now if anybody want to give it, for example a son or daughter want to take it upon themselves, then they have to give from their portion of the mirath or from their own money. The rest would go and be divided amongst the waratha. Now what is not correct is for the executor of the will or the waratha to fast on behalf of the deceased in place of the missed fasts. You cannot say, well, my father, my mother passed away and they had a lot of missed fasts, so I will fast on their behalf. This cannot happen. You cannot do worship on behalf of another person. They have to do that themselves. You can do optional fasts and then do and then send and convey the reward for that person. That's what you can do, but you cannot fast their missed fasts on their behalf. If the ill person passes away before he gains the ability to perform salah, even by indication, it is not necessary for him to make a will to give fidya, whether the number of prayers is abundant or few. Before we discussed, the person did have the ability in the end to perform the salah. Now it was necessary upon him to leave a will behind. But in this case, he passed away before he could gain the ability to perform salah or fast, even by indication, even by ishara. So it is not necessary for him to make a will because he's excused now. Whatever salah that he missed, he will not be held accountable for that. because he just did not have the ability all the way till the end. Similarly, in the case of missed fasts, that if a person did not have the ability to fast all the way till the end, then he does not have to pay fidya for it, nor do his inheritors after him from his assets. Similarly, if the traveler, musafir, passes away before becoming a muqim, it will not be necessary upon him to make a bequest, make a will to give fidya for the fasts. We know that if a person is traveling, then fasts are no longer fard upon him, even the fast of the month of Ramadan. Meaning that if he does fast, that's good. And generally, it is advised nowadays that a person does fast even while he's traveling, unless it's very difficult for him. Because nowadays the traveling is a lot easier, and it is also easier to fast in the month of Ramadan like every other person is doing. So a person does that. But he has an excuse. He has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him rukhsa, that if it is too much for you, it's harder for you, then you do not have to fast. So if a musafir passed away while he's still traveling and he has not yet returned, so all of the fast that he missed that you were traveling, he does not have to make a will that pay fidya on my behalf, because he was excused at the time. Now, the next topic, inshallah, we'll quickly cover is sajdatul sahv, very important one, and some of the rules and rulings regarding it. First thing, that a person who leaves out one of the arkan, fundamentals of the prayer, his salah will become invalid, and it will be compulsory to repeat the salah. That is, he did not make up for that within the same prayer. For example, sajda is a rukun of the salah. And a person in one of the rakat, he did not do either both sajda or one sajda. So he misses out on a sajda, while the sajda was fard. He finishes his salah, even if he do sajda sahv, and then he says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, his salah is invalid. Why? He missed out on a rukun of the salah. Now, what can a person do is that if he makes up for that rukun, that fard part within the same prayer. For example, he missed out on one sajda of the first rakat. But in the second rakat, he performed two sajda first, and then he added one more sajda to make up for the sajda he missed in the first rakat. In that case, all he has to do now is sajda sahab at the end, and his salah will be fine. Because even though he missed out on a rukn, on a fard part of the salah, but he made up for it within the same prayer. But if he did not perform that one sajda that he missed at all, then even if he were to do sajda to sahv at the end, his salah is still invalid, because he has missed out on a sajda, whether intentionally or mistakenly. This is the case. Deficiency in the salah cannot be made up in this case by performing any number of sujood sahv. Now, I've quickly, again, because we covered that right in the beginning of our of the program. The fara'is of the salah, there are 6. According to Shafi'i rahimahullah, there are 7, because they count Fatiha also as a fard. Saying the first takbir, Allahu Akbar, takbir tahrima. This is why we say that a person who is too hasty to join in the salah because the imam is in the ruku, and they missed out on the takbir tahrima, the first Allahu Akbar, and they directly went into ruku, their salah is not valid at all, because they missed out on the very first fard part of the prayer. Saying the first takbir, standing, qiyam, recitation of the Quran, qira'ah, making ruku, making sajda, and sitting in the last sitting for a time equivalent to the reading of the shahud. These are the fara'is and the arkan of the salah. Now, the second part is a person, he didn't leave out a fard part, but he left out a wajib part. So if a person leaves out a wajib from the wajibat of salah intentionally, he has sinned and salah has become null and void. He must repeat it, and this loss cannot be made up by sajdatul sahv, because he intentionally missed out on a wajib part of the prayer. Now, if a person who leaves out a wajib by mistake, then it is necessary to do sajdatul sahv. The deficiency of salah will be made up by the sajda. Any naqs will be made up by performing sajdatul sahv. And before I quickly read through some of the scenarios, we do know that even in the method of how you perform Salat al-Sahaf, there is a difference of opinion between Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala and Imam Shafi rahimahullah ta'ala. Every single time a person who's following the Hanafi madhab, he might perform Salat al-Sahaf in the Hanafi way. Sometimes people get confused. Those who do not follow the Hanafi madhab, oh, what is this? We have never seen somebody do Salat al-Sahaf like this. But we know, according to Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, through the different narrations, that a person has to do one salam and then sajda. And according to Shafi rahimahullah ta'ala, so in the Hanafi madhab, you actually recite at-tahiyyat first, then tashahhud, and then you do Salat al-Sahaf. And then you once more recite from the beginning at-tahiyyatu lillahi once you've done that. According to Shafi rahimahullah ta'ala, there is no salam, there's no one salam. They do just sajda, and then they continue on. If a person leaves out Surah Fatiha by mistake in first two rakat of a fardh prayer or one of them, similarly in any rakat of nafil or wajib, that a person, he didn't recite Fatiha by mistake in first two rakat of a fardh prayer or in one of them, then he has to say the Sahaf. According to Shafi rahimahullah ta'ala, that would nullify his prayer because Fatiha is fard according to him. According to Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, since it is not fard part of the prayer, then if a person misses out reciting Fatiha in either both of them or the first one of the two rakat of any fard prayer, then he will have to do Sayyid al-Sahaf at the end. If a person forgets to recite qira'ah in first two rakat of fard, then he does it in last two rakat. He has recited Fatiha, but he didn't join the surah after Fatiha, he forgot. And then he made up for that in the third or the fourth rakat of prayer, meaning he missed qira'ah, meaning joining the surah after Fatiha in the first rakat. He made up for that in the third rakat, and then he has to do Sajd al-Sahaf at the end. If a person forgets to join a surah to Surah Fatiha in the first two rakat, he has to do Sajd al-Sahaf. If a person performed one sajda and he stood for the next rak'ah and he completed it with two sajdas, then he joined the sajda left out by mistake, the salah will be correct and he must do Sajda al-Sahaf. This is the scenario that I described earlier. He missed out on a sajda, which is fard part, but he made up for it in the next rak'ah by doing three sajdas, and then all he has to do is do Sajda al-Sahaf at the end and his salah will be correct. If a person leaves out the first qa'dah, the first sitting by mistake in a 3 or 4 rakat salah, because we already discussed that the last qa'dah is fard, but the first sitting is wajib. And if a person misses out on a wajib accidentally, then all he has to do is perform Sajda al-Sahaf at the end. So after second rakat in Isha, for example, a person stood up and he didn't sit down for tashahhud. He stood up for the third rakat. In this case, he just carries on with the salah. He does not have to sit down. He just finishes the third rakat, then fourth rakat, and then at the end he does Sajda al-Sahaf. His salah will be correct. If a person left out a recitation of tashahhud by mistake, he didn't recite at-tahiyyatu lillahi wa salawat all the way till the end of tashahhud. If he does that by mistake, then he has to do Sajda al-Sahaf. If he does that intentionally, then he has broken a wajib intentionally, meaning his salah is invalidated and he has to repeat it. If a person, number 7, if a person left out takbir of qunut in witr, after the third rakat, we say Allahu Akbar and then recite the qunut. If a person forgets to say Allahu Akbar, he once more has to do Sajda al-Sahaf. Number 8, if a person leaves out a recitation of qunut in witr, he didn't recite qunut. And also, there are a couple different du'as that we learn from the narration that a person can recite in the qunut. According to Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, the most preferred version is Allahumma inna nasta'inuka wa nastaghfiruka wa nu'minu bika wa natawakkalu alayk, the whole qunut. But some of the other a'imma, they have mentioned another dua that a person can recite in qunut that also suffices. But if a person misses out on the dua altogether, then he has to do Sayyid al-Sahaf. If the imam recites loudly in a soft salah, Zuhr and Asr, Imam accidentally recited out loud Surah Fatiha or any part, they have to do Sajda al-Sahaf. If the Imam recites softly in a loud salah, again, the same thing, that they have to do Sajda al-Sahaf. And if a person, the last one, if a person recites more than tashahhud in the first sitting, or he remains silent for the length of fundamental, For example, in Isha, after the second rakat, he sat down, and after reciting Ashhadu la ilaha illallah, he didn't get up, and rather he started reciting the salawat, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. So because he delayed in the wajib, which was standing up for the third rakat, he has to now do sajda sahv. Or after saying tashahud, ashhadu la ilaha illallah, a person starts to think something and he just goes silent. Equal the amount of time that it takes to perform any other fundamental, for example, any other ruku, any other sajda, meaning a few seconds, he just sat quietly. He just minded somewhere else. He once more has to perform sajda to sahv at the end. Although ulama, they give one leeway or an excuse in this case. One exception, that is, if a person is performing, for example, Eid prayer, and there are so many people behind him that if, despite making a mistake, if he were to do sajda sahv at the end, a lot of people would get confused and they would just say assalamu alaikum, they would get out of the prayer. In that case, it is allowed for the imam to not do sajda sahv and his salah would still be valid. Why? Because there are so many people now, so many new people, the people that are not used to sajda sahv, that they might fall into error regarding their prayer. So in that case, the imam, he can just finish the salah and his salah would be valid. Any other case, he has to perform sajda sahv. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand this. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Inshallah, we will continue about the beginning of the first year or 2 years after arriving to Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara. And subhanAllah, this is important, very important time of the Muslims and the Islam, and how the Prophet ﷺ says or was able to manage the both everything, the different environment in the Medina, the Muslims, the new Muslims, and the Jews around, and the Arab that wants to eliminate everything about the Muslimin, subhanAllah. So a lot of things going on, and subhanAllah, inshallah, today we'll try to cover some of the events. Last time we covered about what the Prophet ﷺ established in the first few months, right? We talked about Qiba, Al-Madinah Munawwara, Al-Ikha, the brotherhood between Al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar, and the Ahd with the Jews. And we talked about the Azan and all this, subhanAllah, just establishment. This is what they call the infrastructure. The Masjid, the Azan, Tajammu' al-Muslimin, Al-Mu'akha. Now we have a nucleus, right? The Muslims are tight and strong. Now, subhanAllah, the Quran was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ of something that was changed. And just we're not going to spend too much about that, but inshallah, it is important for you to understand when you read the Quran, Surah Al-Hajj, at the beginning, the fighting of the non-Muslims and the da'wah and all this started with the idhn, to give them the ability to fight back whoever is fighting you. أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا. It is declared to the people who've been fighting against you that oppression has been done to you by of course, the people of Quraysh and all this, and they were doing the torment and all that. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى نَصْرِهِمْ لَقَدِيرٌ. So the first is Allah is saying there is أُذِنَ لَكَ to have to defend yourself. And then after that, to fight whoever is fighting you. وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ. And fight those, for the sake of Allah, the people who fight you. Subhanallah. And then Subhanallah became to all the mushrikeen kaffa, to anybody, and this is for the Jazirat al-Arab. And Imam Ibn Kathir, he says, Subhanallah, during the time of Mecca, 13 years, right? There is no fighting at all. Subhanallah, even the Prophet ﷺ, the Quran say, do not fight them. Subhanallah, only mujadala, and only just to argue with them and debate with them and tell them who is creating them, who is doing this and all that. Subhanallah. And all the Surah al-Makkiyah that revealed in Mecca is showing that. There is no fighting at all. So this is a huge change. And it is very clear, Subhanallah. What are the saraya? We talk about the first thing that we know, the first ghazwa that we know is Ghazwat Badr, right? This is what we know in the second year of Hijrah. That's, anybody knows that. SubhanAllah, today, I'm just, inshallah, hopefully the time, I'm just going to go through the names and how the process started until Badr. So we're not going to go through Badr or even Tahwil al-Qiblatayn. We're just going to do that, and inshallah, if possible, I'm going to do it as a table like that. So the first one, we're going to mention 3 in this page, inshallah. It's called Sariyat Sayf al-Bahr, and it was Sariyah, Sayf al-Bahr. This is the first one, the first thing ever, subhanallah. And this was Sariyah, not Ghazwa, meaning the Prophet ﷺ was not in it. And this was after 7 months, 7 months after Hijrah. So this is the first year, only 7 months as soon as arrival to the Medina al-Munawwara. And subhanallah, this was biqiyadat, the leader, was Sayyidina Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib. And subhanallah, I want you to think, this is the first time, why did the Prophet ﷺ pick Hamza? And when we come to Ghazawat, who he left behind, all this, subhanallah, the first territory. And the Prophet has a reason of all that. And subhanallah, Kutub al-Sirah doesn't go too much into it. But just think about that. 7 months, and Hamza, how many people in this Sariyah? 30. Min al-Muhajirin. So 30 people from the Muhajirin, and the Prophet ﷺ gave them a white flag, and the purpose was to stop the caravan of Quraysh, carrying the food and all that, so we basically to get some money into the Medina Munawwara and all this. And the caravan at that time had Abu Jahl, and he had 300 people. And let me just write here the result of it. They never actually met each other. Actually, the first one was the person who actually, when they met 3 against 300, there was a man, his name is Al-Juhani, Majdi Al-Juhani, وَكَانَ حَلِيفًا. He was part of a friend to the Muslims and part of a friend for Abu Jahl. And he stood like in the middle between the 30 and the 300, subhanAllah, 30 and 300. And he told them, no fighting, everybody goes home, we're not going to shed blood and all that. And subhanAllah, that's what happened. Sayyidina Hamza accepted that, and no fighting happened. So nothing happened at that time. The second one, that it's called, went into Rabigh, place in Medina, closer to the Medina, it's called Rabigh. And subhanallah, this was after 8 months, the 8th month. So basically 7th month, the 8th month, and the one on it, subhanallah, keep this in mind. Mustah ibn Uthatha. Who knows who's Mustah? If you know that, you get Mustah ibn Uthatha. This is the one that Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha was walking, and then she tripped. And then the mother that of Mustah was walking behind, and she told her, Ta'isa Mustah. And she told him, why? Why Aisha is asking the mother that was walking behind, why you're saying that about your son? Mustah has attended Badr. His people attending Badr. That is Mustah. And then she knew at that time that Mustah was talking bad about Sayyidah Aisha during the Hadithat al-Ifk, the incident of Ifk. Subhanallah. Mustah was whipped later on. But you see, early on, he was one of the leaders, subhanallah, and this is the relative of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhu arda, Mustah ibn Uthatha. So, and subhanallah, at that time, it was the eighth month, and Muslims were 60. This is Muslim, and this is the Kuffar or Quraysh. 60 people against Abu Sufyan at that time, and they were 200 people. And all they said happened munawasha. Munawasha. Here there was no fighting. Here munawasha, like almost getting close to each other, but no fighting, no bloodshed at that time. The only thing you need to know during that time, Sayyidina Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas threw the first arrow, did not hit anybody, nobody got killed, but he say, according to the Bukhari, I am the first one to throw arrow in Islam. And subhanallah, this is during that time, 8 months of arrival to the Medina. 8 months from the Hijrah time. Sayyidina Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu arda. And subhanallah, the third one was Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. And maybe this subhanallah reached the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and maybe he picked him. So now he became the one on the Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. And subhanallah, that was on the 9th month of the first year, subhanallah. And this was to a place called Khirar. Khirar. And this is 9th month. And the one leading that was holding the flag is Al-Miqdad ibn Amr under Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, both of them. They had 20 people from the Muhajirin coming to make i'tirad for stop the caravan of Quraysh. And when they arrived, they didn't find anybody. So they didn't meet anyone here. Here there is no fighting. Here there is munawasha. Here there was no even, the caravan has already left. So it did not come with anything. But keep in mind, when you're looking at all this, Sayful Bahr, Rabigh, Khirar, the Prophet ﷺ, as soon as the ayat revealed to the Prophet that now you can go and do this, subhanAllah, the Prophet immediately started to send people, even in 20, in 30, in 60, subhanAllah, small numbers. Okay? So we have finished that. This is basically 7th month, 8th month, 9th month. This is the first year of after the Hijrah. Okay? Finish that. Okay? Now we're coming to the second year. Second year is Badr there. But before Badr is something else as well. So we're going to mention that. I'll make the same, inshallah. Try to do it the same way. This is the best way to remember it, if you can. And subhanallah, the first one was Ghazwa in the second year. This is all the second year. The first one was Ghazwa. What does Ghazwa mean? Ghazwa is the one that the Prophet ﷺ is part of it. All these are called Saraya. Saraya. Mufradha, the singular of it is Sariya, meaning the Prophet ﷺ is not part of it. Here, this is, the first one is Ghazwa, meaning the Prophet is part of it. Prophet already going with the army. And subhanAllah, Imam Bukhari say there are 3. So this is, we're going to start with the first one. The first one is called Buwat. And subhanAllah, the leader of it was Sayyidina Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib. Hamza was the first one here too, and the first one here too, subhanAllah. The Prophet almost like starting the year with him. And he istakhlaf an al-Madinah. Now the Prophet is with them. So he has to leave somebody to take care of the Medina al-Munawwara. So man alladhi istakhlafa, who left behind to take care, to become like the one managing everything. And this is important because if you leave somebody behind, it's almost like the vice president in our way. If I die, you are taking charge. SubhanAllah, it's important to keep track of that. And the one here is Sa'd ibn Ibadah. Sa'd ibn Ibadah, SubhanAllah, from the Ansar. And the people of the Muslims was 70 min al-Muhajirin. No Ansar, only Muhajirin. And coming for the caravan of Quraysh as well. And nothing has happened at that time. The Prophet ﷺ stayed in that Ghazwa for 15 days. They did not meet the caravan or anything, but he stayed in this place called Buwat, the first one. And then, subhanAllah, the second one, this is called Al-Abwa. I'm sorry, this is Buwat. This is Al-Abwa. And the second one, this is the second one, is called Buat. It was also Ghazwa. So it was. And the Prophet ﷺ went to it, and the one leading and holding is Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. And who he left behind? Sa'd ibn Mu'adh. Sa'd ibn Mu'adh. So leaving behind Sa'd ibn Mu'adh in Medina to take care, the one who is leading is Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. The Prophet ﷺ with them. It's a ghazwa as well. And subhanAllah, second year of the Hijrah. And they went to, now the number here is much higher, 200. So now we are getting to become an army. And 200 from the Muhajirin, عير قريش. عير قريش at that time had Umayyah ibn Khalaf. ومائة رجل و2500 بعير. So Umayyah was here and 100 men, but has 2500 of the Ayr. This, subhanallah, that nothing has happened at that time and no fighting happened, and subhanallah, لم يلقى قيدا ورجع المدينة. The Prophet ﷺ went back into the Medina. No fighting happened. They did not take any of the Ayr or anything. The third one is called Al-Ashira. Ghazwat Al-Ashira. And this is Ghazwa as well. So this is the Prophet ﷺ, and this is the third one. And subhanallah, this was 16 months. I should have mentioned when is that. This is 16th month after the Hijrah. And then Buat, this was 13 month after the Hijrah. And the first one, Al-Abwa, this was about 12 months after the Hijrah. So this is roughly the timing after the Hijrah. How far? So almost like the first one, every other month and all that, and then 16 months. And the Ashira, the Prophet ﷺ, the one who had the liwa is Sayyidina Hamza as well, like here. So the same one. The third one is Ashira as well. And استخلف على المدينة أبا سلمة. So the one who left him behind is Aba Salama. He is the husband of Salama. And at that time, the Muslim was 150, and some people say it's a 200. So closer to this one too, 200, 150 and 200. And nobody was forced to go at that time, and they went into 30 of rides, sharing with them. So not everyone has a ride, they were sharing. SubhanAllah, 30 rides sharing between 150. So basically 5 on each camel or 5 on each horse to alternate. And going to the same caravan as well from Mecca, from Quraysh. And at that time, nothing has happened. And subhanAllah, they were trying to stop the Ayr that the Prophet ﷺ was always looking for, which they call it that غَيْرُ ذَاتِ الشَّوْكَةِ. There is no fighting or battle. The Muslims wanted to get the caravans and all this, looking for the 200, the 2500 one. They did not find it, and nothing has happened. SubhanAllah, all these show you that the news as well and getting to know what is happening was not absolutely accurate. To kind of like, oh, the caravan is going to be here. The caravan is going to be here. Sometimes it's like a lot of it was missing, right? They go and they have the people going and all this and the rides, and then they missed it. It's already passed. Or now we're getting into Safwan or Badr al-Ula. Badr al-Ula. They call it the first Badr. Something has happened at that time. After all these three, Quraysh started to say, no, we're not just going to be waiting for that. They heard about that. We're going to fight back. So they sent somebody, his name is Qarz. And this Qarz ibn Jabir al-Fuhari, he went to the Medina. He's the one attacking. So now the attack is coming to the Medina. And subhanAllah, after they arrived and took some of the camels from the Medina among the Muslims. They took some of the camels and the sheep and all that. And the Prophet ﷺ went outside with 70 of the people, min al-Muhajirin, and the one leading at that time was Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali ibn Abi Talib. SubhanAllah. Now we see Ali starting to lead and all this, and left behind Zayd ibn Haritha. Now we're starting to see the names that we know. Zayd ibn Haritha, Ali ibn Abi Talib. he left him behind, and the Prophet went with Ali and 70, and they missed what he took. So he actually took the camels and took the sheep and all that, and he was able to run away and go back to Quraysh. No fighting happened. It's called Badr al-Ula. And then we're last, before this, the fifth one, before we get into Tahwil al-Qibla, is Nakhla, called Sariya. This all are Ghazawat. The Prophet was part of it. Now this is Sariya, the last one. It's called to a place called Nakhla. The Prophet was not part of it, so we don't need to know who's left behind. And this is very important because, subhanAllah, something happened, and I'm going to explain it here. The Prophet ﷺ, after the cows were taken and all this was taken, he sent this Sariyat Nakhla with Abdullah ibn Jahsh. Abdullah ibn Jahsh. And told him something very strange, subhanAllah. He sent with him only 8 min al-muhajirin. All of it min al-muhajirin. Only 8, subhanAllah. And told him, as soon as you have 2 days of your travel to this place, it's called Nakhla, you can open this letter, subhanAllah. So give him a letter. Do not open it until you reach 2 days worth. You go and sleep and wake up, go sleep and wake up, and then you open my letter and see what's going on, subhanAllah. Very secretive and very, subhanAllah, nobody would know and all this. And he sent with him these 8 people, min al-muhajirin. And this was roughly about the 17th month from the Hijrah. We remember these days, 12, 13, 16. And this Sariyat Nakhla, 17th month of the Hijrah. So this is 17th month of Hijrah. And subhanAllah, Abdullah ibn Jahsh went, and after 2 days until he reached Nakhla, this place called Nakhla, he, subhanAllah, opened the letter from the Prophet ﷺ, and he told him, if you have read this, then you have reached this place. And go until you reach all the way until this place between Mecca and Taif. And Nakhla is between Mecca and Taif. So Mecca and Taif, this is almost the heart closer to Mecca. Very close, right? And he told him, make rasd to Quraysh. Just observe what is going on to Quraysh. Just observe what's happening, get the news and see what's happening, and get us the news from them. Okay, he didn't tell them to fight. Obviously, he has only 8 people, and told them, make rasd and all this. And وَلَا تُرْغِمْ أَحَدٍ. Do not force anyone to go with you. So Abdullah ibn Jahsh, I don't know why it keeps changing to a eraser. He say, Sam'an wa ta'a, as soon this happened, and told the people with him, the 8 people, that if you want to come with me, this is what I'm going to do. This is what the Prophet is saying. And if you want to return, the Prophet is saying anyone who doesn't want to die or anything can go back to Al-Madinah. All of them, of course, went with Abdullah ibn Jahsh. Subhanallah. وَمَنْ كَرِهَ الْمَوْتِ فَلْيَرْجَعْ. He told him, whoever is afraid to die, go back to the Medina. There is no issues. There is no them bil-qital or anything. All of them went with him at that time and went all the way to Nakhla. Subhanallah, what happened, and this is important because there is an ayah revealed in that. Inshallah, we'll see that and finish with it. 2 of the people, including Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, which we know that he's already a leader and the first arrow, and Khalid Rasul and all this, and somebody called Utbah ibn Ghazwan, they lost a camel and they went to track him down. So now the number is already 6 people, right? And they went all this way. At that time, subhanallah, they found the caravan of Quraysh, just like that, caravan of Quraysh. So started to have mashura. Okay, what are we going to do? The Prophet ﷺ is saying, only observe, get us the news and come back. And then are we going to fight? Can we take it for the Muslims and all that? They did not know. So let's see. Subhanallah, they were also on the day of the Shahr al-Haram, Shahr al-Muharram, and they know this is supposed to be no fighting in the Ashhur al-Hurum, right? So but they say if we keep the caravan going, it will go into Mecca, and this is Haram as well. So we're not going to be able to do anything, and they have all these money and all that, subhanallah. So, and they were at that time were at Rajab, Shahr Rajab. So there is Haram killing. So these talked among themselves and say, we're going to go and fight. Subhanallah. We're just going to take it and fight and see what happens. Subhanallah. So one of them sent an arrow towards, I'm not going to tell you the name, so one was killed from the mushrikeen, and they took 2 asra. There was not an army, it was a big caravan, but just full of like cattle and things like that, and took 2 asra, and one was killed, and subhanallah, and they took them as asra, prisoner of war. One was killed and took all the caravan to Al-Madinah al-Munawwarah. So subhanallah, they felt good. We got the caravan coming after all these 2 years of trying and nothing is happening, right? And finally we got the news, and then we got the caravan, and we got 2 prisoners of war. One was killed, and they didn't know. But also he was killed during Rajab. So that was not told by the Prophet to do. And they are Muslims, right? So we should respect Al-Ashhur al-Hurum. These were the first 2 prisoners in Islam. This was the first kill in Islam in battle, subhanallah. When they arrived to Al-Madinah al-Munawwarah, the Prophet did not like what they did, subhanallah. And wallahi, subhanallah, when you read that story, you feel some kind of ache in your heart for them. They did their best, they made ijtihad, and then they went with their lives and all this during the story, and then they took it. And then the Prophet, أنكر عليهم ذلك. This is the Ashhur al-Hurum, and you should not have done that. They are killing an Ashhur al-Hurum. What people are going to say about Muslims, we are killing people during Ashhur al-Hurum. So the Prophet ﷺ did not like what they did. So they thought we are ruined. We're going to be going to the hellfire. Nothing is going to happen. Now Quraysh is all going to be against us. Nobody's going to like us here and hereafter and everything. Subhanallah, the ayah was revealed. Ayat from Allah. Subhanallah. Allah is the Kareem Ar-Rahim, the one who decide and judge what is good for your life. Subhanallah. And I want you all to read this ayah, and this is ayah number 217, so you can go to it in Surah Al-Baqarah. Al-Baqarah. And subhanallah, you may read this ayah many times, but you don't understand it. And subhanallah, it is very clear during the Surah Al-Baqarah, you may not understand it, but it happened during this time. Sariyat Nakhla, Abdullah ibn Jahsh, in the 17th month after the arrival of the Hijrah and all this, and the letter that after 2 days, remember all this. And what did Allah say? What is the judgment of Allah to this? Subhanallah. Allah is saying, they ask you about the Shahr al-Haram, قتال فيه, يسألونك عن الشهر الحرام قتال فيه, قل قتال فيه كبير. They ask you about the Ashhur al-Hurum, the month of Haram. Yes, it is big and major to kill during the Ashhur al-Hurum. Nobody's saying. وصد عن سبيل الله وكفر به والمسجد الحرام وإخراج أهله منه أكبر عند الله. All these things that you have done, that Quraysh has done to you, is much bigger than the Ashhur al-Hurum, subhanallah. So he's telling the Prophet ﷺ included, and telling Muslims and the Quraysh, what have you been oppressed against is much bigger than killing an Ashhur al-Hurum. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is supporting Abdullah ibn Jahsh. And the Prophet ﷺ told him, no, I don't like that, subhanallah. But Allah is supporting him, subhanallah. So go back and read this ayat. وصد عن سبيل الله وكفر به والمسجد الحرام وإخراج أهله منه أكبر عند الله والفتنة أكبر من القتل. And doing the fitna is much major than the killing. ولا يزالون يقاتلونكم. Read the rest of that. And the Hafiz ibn Kathir, and we'll stop there, he say, even if it was, the Ibn Kathir is saying, even if it was like wrong to kill during the Ashhur al-Hurum, but Allah is supporting and telling them, getting you out of the Masjid al-Haram and doing the fitna and doing the killing of the Muslim and all that and getting them out of Mecca, this is much more major crime than the Qital and Ashhur al-Hurum. May Allah accept from all of you, inshallah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Inshallah, today we'll have a very short lesson, and the details of the lesson will be discussed inshallah next week. So very shortly and very briefly, the Quran has 6 rights. Number 1, Haqqul Iman wa Tasdeeq. Number 2, Haqqut Tilawa. Number 3, Haqqut Tadabbur. Number 4, Haqqul Amali Bihi. Number 5, At-Tahakum ila Quran. Number 6, Haqqul Istifshabihi. So very quickly, number 1, Haqqul Iman wa Tasdeeq means to believe in the Quran and to attest in the Quran's message, and to have full conviction and dependence on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. Number 2, Haqqut Tilawa, to recite the Quran and to give it its due right. Number 3, Haqqut Tadabbur, which means to reflect and to contemplate over the verses of the Quran, both the verses and the message, the interpretation, the tafsir. Number 4, Haqqul Amali Bihi, the right to practice upon the Quran. It's the Quran's right that we practice upon the Quran. Number 5, At-Tahakum ila Quran, which basically means when we have disputes, whether our disputes are of a religious nature or our disputes are of worldly natures, we should use the Quran as a means of resolving our disputes. Number 6, Haqqul Istishfabihi, which means the Quran is a means of shifa. And the ulama ikram and mufassirin have mentioned the word shifa refers to all types of illnesses, spiritual illnesses and worldly illnesses. So each 6 of these categories, inshallah, will be discussed in detail with Quranic verses, ahadith, and stories from the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to understand and practice. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah bin alamin, sadaqallahu al-azim.